calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say on a Tuesday, May 24? Great to see you today, and thank you for being part of the program here, the Bill Press Show, originating live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where we're located on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We are in the shadow of the Capitol Dome. As we say, we can see them from here, and they can hear us from over there as we keep on top of what's happening at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue, the United States Congress, and the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue at the White House. Of course, the White House now is on the road. We'll bring you up to date on all the news of the day, and we want to hear from you as to what you think about it, what it all means to you, where do you think we're going. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Use it to call at any time. Or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. A sure sign that Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are going to be united, as well as the entire Democratic Party united against Donald Trump. In the announcement yesterday of the members of the Platform Drafting Committee for the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, that committee will be chaired by Congressman Elijah Cummings from Baltimore. And Hillary Clinton got 6 nominees. Bernie Sanders got 5. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC chair, got 4. So the Sanders and Clinton campaign cooperating here. And the members include such Sanders backers as Congressman Keith Ellison, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, human rights activist Jim Zogby, Princeton professor Cornel West, and environmentalist Bill McKibben. Good sign. They're coming together. Meanwhile, Donald Trump yesterday meeting with Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee to talk about a possible vice presidential slot. Uh-oh, watch out. All that to talk about and a lot more here on the Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump meets with Senator Bob Corker, chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Do we see a vice presidential nomination coming up? Hello, everybody. What do you say? A lot of speculation about that. Here we go on a big Tuesday, May 24. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. Starting off on our Tuesday show for the next 3 hours here, the Bill Press Show from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, from our studio on Capitol Hill, reaching out to all of you all across this great country of ours. We're there with you on the radio and on television, on your local Progressive Talk radio station, and on Free Speech TV. Thanks for being with us today. Look forward to hearing from you about the news of the day. Again, you know how it works. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Just take advantage of that. Or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Out last night at a big legal awards ceremony, the Burton Awards for Legal Achievement, and had a chance to hang out a little bit with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or as they call her, the notorious RBG.
One and only.
The one and only. She was there to memorialize Justice Antonin Scalia. Justice Stephen Breyer was there. He has a new book out called The Court and the World, about the importance of considering what other nations do when the court is making its decisions on a whole variety of issues, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. We do so much international commerce today that you have to live in the big world, and the Supreme Court has to live in the big world when it's making its decisions as well. And then Chief Justice John Roberts came by for the cocktail hour. So it's nice to got to talk to 3 out of 8 anyhow of the Supreme Court.
It's not bad.
Yeah, and I put my pitch in on a couple of cases. And yeah. We're here with the team today to get into the news of the day. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
What do you say? A little sunshine yesterday afternoon. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? After pretty heavy rain.
It lulled me into a false sense of security because it was nice and sunny and a gorgeous day, and then it just started dumping rain again.
It did. And then it got better again.
And then it got better again.
Late in the afternoon. Ray Rogers here, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, Cyprian Bolding, our videographer. Look at us, thanks to Cyprian, indeed. And, you know, we talked yesterday about Donald Trump getting the endorsement of the NRA and promising to do anything they wanted about guns. You know, he'd have, you could just buy a gun in a supermarket and buy the ammunition at the same place. I mean, anything the NRA wants, Donald Trump was for. He also made a lot of promises about reversing President Obama's executive orders, using an unusual phrase for how he was going to handle it.
On Friday, Trump
Jimmy
also
Fallon
gave a big
told us
speech
this
in
last
Kentucky,
night.
and I'm starting to wonder if he really understands how legislation works. Listen to this.
And we will unsign lots of different things, including some of those terrible executive orders. Believe me, they're going to be unsigned so fast, they'll be unsigned the first hour that I'm in office. In the first hour that I'm in office.
Unsigned?
Yeah. Then I'm going to unsign every Christmas card I ever sent to the Clintons. Unsigned. And I'll unsign it. When someone told him that unsigned wasn't really a word, he was like, fine, then I unsay it.
No, it was so funny. Unsigned. I'm going to unsign it. I'm going to unsign it. Believe me. Yeah.
Believe me.
Every I love that phrase. Believe me. All right.
Ugh.
And believe me, we got a great show for you today. Of course, Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky grace our presence as they do every Tuesday. They'll be along. We'll take a look at food policy. We're going to talk to the directors of the great new documentary called Wiener. And we'll also get into, believe it or not, ethics in Washington. Is there any? Well, we'll find out. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You see people who wear these Fitbits, right? They're these little bracelets. They look like a watch. It's a little band. And what it does is it keeps track of
John
your...
Boehner used to wear one.
Right. It keeps track of your steps, but they also have ones that keep track of
my
your...
phone keeps track of my steps.
Your phone will do that,
Although,
but
if I don't have my phone, then it misses a few steps.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. But they do have these Fitbit bands that will measure your heart rate, right? They've got a little heart rate monitor if you wear it on your wrist. Yeah. Well, a new study from California State Polytechnic University shows that these Fitbit bands could be giving you very wrong information. They have something called Pure Pulse technology is what Fitbit uses. And again, it monitors your heart rate. And they put it to the test and found out that they monitor that the monitors miscalculate heart rates by up to 20 beats per minute. Wrong. They tested it on about 50 different adults and found out that 20 beats per minute is a lot. So they tested on all these people and found out that it was pretty consistent that it is getting the heart rate wrong. Fitbit has yet to step up and address this, but it's not a good look, Fitbit.
No, I wouldn't trust that.
Yesterday in Vietnam, the president we know is visiting there. He's not the only American in Vietnam. Anthony Bourdain is in there shooting for his TV show, and lo and behold, they managed to find a little time to have dinner together at a place called Bun Cha Rong Lien, which is a place that serves grilled pork in a broth or dipping sauce with rice noodles and fresh herbs. Bourdain, the first to tweet out a photo of him and the president having dinner together. And Bourdain said, low plastic seats, cheap and delicious noodles, $6 total. I picked up the bill.
And I understand that he was very complimentary of President Obama's chopstick skills.
He did say something. Mm-hmm. He did say that the president knew what he was doing with the chopsticks.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine taking the president of the United States out to dinner to some little alley in Vietnam? And by the way, John Kerry is there too.
Yeah. The pool report is fascinating about how it all happened. I mean, they talk about the muddy streets because of the rain that they've been having, and people are sort of huddling for shelter, trying to get out of the rain. And the president of the United States shows up in this little alleyway for dinner. It's amazing. And this story should not come as a surprise.
I'd like to take him out for dinner in Washington, D.C. for $6.
Yeah, right?
Where were you to
Good
end
luck
up?
with that.
Yeah.
You can't even buy him a hot dog on the street for that. Not exactly a shock to find out that the NFL is not a great organization. A new congressional study showed that the NFL health officials waged an improper, this is quote, improper behind-the-scenes campaign to influence a major U.S. government research study on football and brain disease.
What a surprise.
Yeah, it's almost like the National Football League is a garbage organization. What's happening is the NFL was pressuring the National Institute of Health to strip the $16 million project from a prominent Boston University researcher who had been looking at the correlation between repetitive head trauma and brain injury. And the NFL actively worked to try and spike this story, spending millions of dollars.
On this issue, they just have to get a whole
They're not going to.
No.
They're not going to.
A whole new team in there who would recognize how serious this issue is and put themselves on the right side of it.
Yeah. It's gross.
All right. Well, we thank you. Yes, indeed. We start today on a very positive note, and I don't know. I'm tempted to say I told you so, but I would never.
I know you would never do such a thing.
I would never do that. But there's a different tone today, a different sign of, there's signs of unity today. Listen to Hillary Clinton out on the campaign trail in Detroit yesterday, where she is talking about unity.
We are going to unify the Democratic Party and stop Donald Trump.
And she says, believe it or not, one of the reasons we've come so far is thanks to Bernie.
We are coming to the end of the Democratic primaries. I applaud Senator Sanders and his supporters for challenging us. We are going to get unaccountable money out of politics. We are going to take on the crisis of income inequality.
That's it. That is from a Bernie Sanders Trump speech.
It is. Yeah, she's mentioning all the issues that he's been talking about. So, look, we're all friends, right? You've heard me say it so many times. I'm making a couple of points. One is that all this talk about how ugly the Democratic primary is getting is just nonsense. It was just media hype. That the differences between these two candidates pale in comparison to what happened on the Republican side, and that it was the party would easily unite and come together against whoever the Republican opponent was in the fall. No problem getting that unity in the Democratic Party. And the other point that I made over and over again is, and here on this show and on CNN, is that Bernie Sanders was out to do more than just grab the nomination. Now, that's still his number one goal, and he's still fighting for it, and he still has a shot, as slim as it might be, and he's going to go all the way to the end and should, in order to maybe get that shot, if the superdelegates come to their senses. But he also is there to shape the party platform so that these progressive issues are what the Democratic Party stands for and is running for in 2016 and takes beyond 2016 as the central focus of the Democratic Party on behalf of the middle class and working class Americans. And he wants to shake up the Democratic Party and open up the Democratic Party in some very important ways, getting new progressives elected to Congress, getting rid of closed primaries, maybe getting rid of caucuses, maybe getting rid of, if not getting rid of, changing the rules about superdelegates. So he's got this whole big agenda in mind. And I told you, I kept saying, that's what he's going for, and that's what well, guess what? There's the first sign yesterday that he really has made an impact. The Democratic National Committee released the names of the people who are going to be on the platform drafting committee for the convention. And it's a great list. And get this, Hillary Clinton named 6 people to that committee. Bernie Sanders named 5 people to that committee. That's a good compromise.
Yeah.
She's ahead in the delegates, but they've just about split them. And then the DNC chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, named 4. And there's some great people on that committee, some real progressives on that committee. Strong Bernie Sanders supporters on that committee. They include Congressman Keith Ellison, one of the few members of Congress to actually endorse Bernie. They include Congresswoman Barbara Lee. And I might add, you've heard me talk about, there have been some reports, there will be more, that the Bernie Sanders campaign actually got started in our living room, Carol and I, our house on Capitol Hill, where Bernie asked us to put together a little group of people to talk about the possibility of running for president. And 2 of the people at that meeting, first meeting, were Keith Ellison and Barbara Lee.
There you go.
So there they are, right? There from the beginning for Bernie. Barbara has not officially endorsed Bernie. Keith Ellison has. On that committee includes the great environmental leader today, number 1 environmental leader today, Bill McKibben, who is the chief Keystone Pipeline opponent and the strongest climate change advocate in the world, I think. Cornel West, Princeton professor Cornel West, very critical of the President Obama for not doing more on the progressive front, a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. Jim Zogby, who is head of the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee, a great guy, been a frequent guest on our show. Good friend of mine and a strong human rights leader. I'm going to be doing his television show tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
Wendy Sherman, who was Deputy Secretary of State with Madeleine Albright, a great leader in foreign policy. Howard Berman, former chair, a good friend of mine from California, former chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and Carol Browner, who was head of the EPA under Bill Clinton. So this is a great group of people. I think I mentioned Elijah Cummings, Congressman Elijah Cummings from Baltimore, will be the chair of that committee. It's a great group, and Bernie Sanders people are there. They'll have a real impact. I think we're going to see a party platform that is really, worth paying attention to and that we could all be proud of. So the point is, it's already starting, coming together. We still don't know who the nominee is going to be. The primary is going to continue through June 14, the Democratic primary here in the District of Columbia. But in the meantime, both camps, Sanders camp and the Clinton camp, are starting to work together toward the same goals, which is making sure that the Democratic Party is back on track as the party of the people in this country, and that's due and thanks to Bernie Sanders. And so this is great news, and I just hope that, like the New York Times this week with that headline, Bernie's out to harm Hillary Clinton. Politico yesterday with this headline, Bernie loses his halo. All this naysaying, all this negativity on the part of the national media. They got it wrong. They were wrong from the beginning. Bernie Sanders, great positive influence on the party, and now it's starting to show. Already starting to show. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think? This is good news, folks. All those, again, all these people have been calling me saying, oh, this is terrible. We're going to be so divided in November. And I kept saying, no. We're going to be together. Now, there's proof that we are. Came out yesterday. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Bernie Sanders put out a little statement yesterday, just a one-liner really, about this new platform committee. He says, quote, "We believe that we will have the representation on the platform drafting committee to create a democratic platform that reflects the views of millions of our supporters who want the party to address the needs of working families in this country and not just Wall Street, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, and other powerful special interests." So Bernie's happy with the makeup of the committee. He's got 5 good friends on there. It's a good sign that the party will be united against Donald Trump in the fall. John calling from out in Minneapolis. Hey, John, what do you say?
Yeah, I think we need a greater involvement, and I think that Bernie Sanders has really brought that to our politics, and people are engaged that wouldn't have been engaged before.
Yep.
And I think that's a great thing, because we are really facing some very big problems in the future of this country and actually throughout the world. And I just wanted to put a plug in for John Nichols' new book, actually Robert McChesney, and John Nichols, People Get Ready, because, automation, various kinds of things that are going on in the economy means that we have to even be more politically engaged, or we're going to be left on the sidelines without any power at all.
Yeah, no, it's a great new book. I was talking with John about it when I was out in Madison, Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago, and the message is really a powerful one, and it reflects the message that Bernie Sanders has been carrying throughout this Democratic primary and encouraging more and more people not only to get involved now, but to stay involved. Remember, what he is really all about is a political revolution, and he means it. And you know what? Revolution is starting, and I love it. I'm in the front line.
Is
Arthur
the
Delaney
Bill
coming
Press
up
Show.
next.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, indeed, Tuesday, May 24. It is the Bill Press Show. We are live in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Our studio right here on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today in part by Amalgamated Bank. Yep, you hear the term, a bank with progressive values. Sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it's not. For almost a century now, Amalgamated has actually been the first choice bank of progressive organizations and individuals nationwide. So check them out at amalgamatedbank.com. The way things work today with banking, you can bank anywhere in the country online at Amalgamated Bank and be a proud progressive at the same time, amalgamatedbank.com. Speaking about proud progressives, there's the Huffington Post, and then there's Arthur Delaney from the Huffington Post, our Tuesday regular here on the Bill Press Show at this early hour. Hello, Arthur. Everything good?
Good morning. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in and keeping us up to track with things. You are our Flint man. Last week we talked about somebody getting in the way, sort of, in Flint, right? Mark Ruffalo. What's the latest?
A lot of celebrities have gone to Flint and highlighted efforts to help people in Flint.
And been helpful, right?
Yeah. Sent bottled water.
Yeah.
And Mark Ruffalo has this group, Water Defense, and they go from water disaster to water disaster, usually oil spills. and promote a technology for cleaning it up that this guy they have invented. So in Flint, they're saying nobody can tell you it's safe to bathe in this water because residents have been concerned that the water causes rashes for unknown reasons that other scientists have been investigating. But Mark Ruffalo's group, Water Defense, said, aha, we have a proprietary product called the Water Bug that can be used for testing that will catch more contaminants, revealing the truth about your water. So the story I did yesterday is about how the guy with Water Defense, Scott Smith, who Mark Ruffalo has called a scientist, is not a scientist. It is a recently bankrupt former businessman who owns patents on this special foam that gives him royalties on all sales of the product by his former company, which confirmed that the water bug is made from this material, which is called Opflex.
What a scam.
Yeah, so this shows you what can happen when the government completely discredits itself, because there are people in Flint who are they really appreciate that Mark Ruffalo is there, that people are there trying to help.
Yeah.
And the rashes that they say are bothering them, they don't believe the government when it tells them it's safe to bathe. We don't know of any reason why it wouldn't be. You can't get lead poisoning from your shower. You have to drink water to get lead. And Ruffalo's group is saying actually you can inhale lead through water vapor, which isn't true. And they're saying we've detected high levels of contaminants, which it turns out, as far as we can tell, isn't true either. So this is a legacy of the Flint water crisis.
But isn't it, I guess, sadly, in every disaster or every crisis like this, there are people who come along and try to make a buck, right? With some phony product. It sounds like, he's just...
It's a foamy product. It's like a sponge.
A foamy product. Phony.
It was used to help clean up oil after the Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf of Mexico 6 years ago. BP, remember, kind of crowdsourced that problem, said, this is such a big mess. We're soliciting the public's help, and like 1,000 people with inventions showed up. They used 45 things, and one of them was this product. It was good for absorbing oil and repelling water. This guy has taken it to every oil spill that's happened since then. He even took it to the Costa Concordia cruise ship disaster, saying this could be used to mop up olive oil that comes out of this wrecked cruise ship. The Flint is not an oil spill, though.
Yeah,
so
right.
it bears a lot of skepticism.
But I'm sure there are a lot of people who are worried about their kids, right?
Yeah.
Genuinely worried about their kids. And also gullible, right, for a movie star or rock, whatever, a celebrity, and will buy into this nonsense.
Well, yeah, they're there.
And as you point out,
they seem to be helping.
And the government is sort of helping his cause by being so incompetent themselves. People don't trust the government, so they're looking for somebody else.
I think that's the most important thing here. The government's failure in Flint created this situation.
Speaking about government failures, it was reported this morning. In fact, Jamie, we have a little sound from the Secretary, the Veterans Affairs Secretary yesterday, Robert McDonald. He was just routinely for years and years and years. The Christian Science Monitor has had these breakfasts in Washington. I never get to go because I'm always on the air.
Oh, I've been to a couple of them. You get sausage, you get eggs. There's fruit, coffee, cereal, and it costs like $30 for your employer.
And sometimes you get some news out of it. Not always. Right?
Well, it depends.
Well, yesterday, nobody expected any news until Secretary McDonald was asked about all these people who have to wait for care at a VA hospital. And he says, it's no big deal.
When you go to Disney, do they measure the number of hours you wait in line, or the number, what's important? What's important is what's your satisfaction with the experience.
Yeah, so it's just like waiting in line for Disney. Marco Rubio jumped all over that yesterday. Of course, representing Disneyland.
You have to wait long at a line in Disney World. That means you have to wait long at a line to get on an amusement park ride. You have to wait long at a line at the VA. That means you don't get the care you've earned and deserved from our country. So I found that comment to be unacceptable.
Yeah, it's an unacceptable comment. No kidding. I mean, a lot of senators were pointing out that this was not acceptable.
Pretty heartless, right?
Well, yeah, you do wait in line for hours at Disneyland, but for veterans, we're talking about days.
Yeah.
You know, millions and millions of veterans waiting.
If not weeks.
Weeks.
If not weeks, right?
Weeks.
Yeah.
To paint it as a pleasant overall experience, because you have to wait days or weeks to get care, is so tone deaf.
Yeah.
So remarkably tone deaf.
I mean, it shows the risk of speaking to reporters just extemporaneously while you're having breakfast.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'll be apologizing for that.
You mean
he hasn't already?
You mean like Donald Trump does all the time?
Yeah, true.
So, how is your candidate, Donald Trump, doing, Arthur? You were.
He's doing great.
You were on the Trump beat for Huffington Post.
Trump is having a great spring. You know, everyone said he was unacceptable all along, and now look, they're accepting him. The Republican Party is in the process of coming around.
You know, it is unbelievable that is true, but it is happening. Now,
I'd agree that it's shocking.
I think there will be still some holdouts. I don't see Mitt Romney ever endorsing, or George W. Bush or George H.W. maybe, or Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona. But there have been some amazing people turnarounds, I think. Like Lindsey Graham is the number one.
Apparently, Lindsey Graham is in private telling the donor class or whatever, we got to get behind this guy.
Well, he spoke at a fundraiser in, I think it was Florida, major donors, and he said, I understand why you support, and I think it's important that we come together, the party come together, to keep Hillary Clinton from getting the White House.
Yeah, if he really affirms that this is his stance, which I don't think he has yet, but if he does, it's massively discrediting to him based on everything he's so adamantly said about Donald Trump's unfitness for this job.
But I also think that this gets to the heart of the problem with Donald Trump and the Republicans, right? Everyone keeps saying Donald Trump has hijacked the party, which I don't think is true. I think Donald Trump is the Republican Party. These are their voters. And he won South Carolina in a very big way, which is where Lindsey Graham presumably will have to win re-election at some point. And if he's going to be the voice out there that is beating the crap out of the Republican nominee for president, they won't forget it in South Carolina.
Now,
they love Trump there.
Right. Ben Carson last week came out with his list of 5 people who are being considered for vice president, which was a crazy list, including Sarah Palin. Who else? Chris Christie was on that list.
Yeah, Chris Christie was on the list.
And himself, probably. I didn't see this. Were you on the list?
No, I might as well have been. No, Ben Carson did not put himself on the list, but we all knew that was he's number one on his list. But as kind of a surprise, yesterday, Trump actually met with Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee, chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who was invited to go with President Obama to Vietnam on this historic mission to Vietnam. He turned that trip down so he could meet with Donald Trump yesterday at Trump Tower in New York. But if you've got it, when Bob Corker came out of the meeting, he insisted this had nothing to do with vice president.
I have no reason whatsoever to believe that I'm being considered for a position like that. I'll say that until I'm blue in my face. It's just, again, this was a meeting between 2 people who didn't know each other except over phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't believe it either. Bob Corker, vice president.
It wouldn't be his worst move. Think about it: Republican senator, very well respected, both sides of the aisle, and chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
Do people remember that?
Where Donald Trump has 0 credentials, right?
Yeah. Well, he's a birther who says vaccines cause autism. Do people forget this stuff?
Corker?
No,
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, well we know all the problems with Trump,
But
I mean,
we're going through this process of him becoming like acceptable, and I just feel like it's important to point out that he's a birther who says vaccines cause autism. Like it's one of the only two. That's two of the only things he actually believes, and that women are terrible. 3 things that he's been consistent on for a long time. He has no positions at all, and Republicans are very naively pretending that they can control him.
well, I hate to disagree with you, but he does have a position on guns in the classroom. He thinks there should not be guns in the classroom, except when there should be guns in the classroom.
Right.
I think that's pretty clear.
A quintessential Trump position with scare quotes.
Believe me.
There was on CNN yesterday. There's a chyron that said, "Trump, no guns in schools, comma, except maybe." That's on a hand to God. That's exactly what it said on CNN.
All right. We're here with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. Invite you to join the conversation. 866-55-PRESS and how to do it. Give us a call. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Igor Volsky from Think Progress Center for American Progress Action Fund, I should say. I got that wrong.
Yeah,
right. Oh, Igor will be all over me. Joins us at the top of the next hour here. Arthur Delaney in studio from Huffington Post, senior reporter and head of the HuffPost Hill. We always tell you to go to HuffingtonPost.com and sign up for HuffPost Hill every evening for their irreverent take on the news. One other bit of news today we haven't gotten to yet, Arthur, is that in Baltimore yesterday, the 6 officers who've been charged in the death of Freddie Gray a year or so ago, resulting in the horrible, tragic riots up in Baltimore. But the first officer, Edward Nero, he was the first one to actually go into trial, and the judge yesterday cleared him on all counts. The attorney for the Freddie Gray family, actually Billy Murphy, came out very reasonable and said you have to respect the judge's decision.
I urge everybody in the black community especially to remain calm because we put Judge Williams on the bench, and he has done a spectacular job in almost every case he's ever handled.
And Elijah Cummings, a congressman from Baltimore, pointed out that we all wanted to see justice done in this case. Well, sometimes this is what justice looks like.
What I've been reminding the people of our city is that they asked for justice, and here, this is what justice looks like. You don't always get the verdict that you want or maybe even expect.
Disappointing, but,
Well, at the time of Freddie Gray's funeral, where Elijah Cummings spoke, there hadn't been any charges against officers or anything. They had just kind of killed Freddie Gray, and that was that. And that's what people were so angry about.
Right.
Police killings of unarmed people.
And no action taken.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they announced these charges, that was huge, momentous.
And they're also, it's a complicated case, and we hope to talk to Wes Lowry from the Washington Post, who's been covering this from the beginning a little bit later. But in this case, there was criticism at the time that the city attorney moved too fast against all 6 without having sufficient evidence. It looks like that may have been the case because here, with this first officer who was charged with second-degree assault in the arrest of Freddie Gray, they were not able to prove that he had ever physically touched Freddie Gray during that entire arrest period. And without that, it's hard to make a charge of second-degree assault stick.
Yeah.
Right? Now, clearly somebody did wrong in this case, and somebody roughed him up and threw him in the back of that van and didn't secure him in the back of that van, and he was killed in the process.
Something happened.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's clear.
Yeah.
And at the rate that we're going, there will be no justice for what happened. We should just get used to that. We don't have to accept it, but we should just get prepared for that outcome.
Or this is not the guy, but there are 5 more to go, remember?
Yeah.
And that the case will be stronger. One would hope.
I hope so.
One would hope.
I really
with those
hope so.
other 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right that they did kind of hurry on this, because I remember it was still a climate of amazement at what had happened after Freddie Gray's funerals, when there were massive protests and riots.
And how could it go so wrong and nothing be done? But kudos to, first of all, good for I think Elijah Cummings and for Billy Murphy, both of them appealing for calm yesterday, and for the people of Baltimore accepted.
Well, there was calm, yeah.
And it was calm.
Yeah, there was like a protest at the courthouse, but didn't hear of anything other than that.
All right.
I hope it stays that way.
Hope it stays that way, too. Right. All right. Arthur Delaney, always good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in, bringing us up to date.
Thank you for having me.
And don't buy any of that Mark Ruffalo sponge stuff.
Don't.
That foamy product.
The phony foam.
Unless you've got an oil spill.
Yeah, we got an oil spill, call it. Otherwise, ignore it. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Every day when I was 5, my older sister would play teacher. Her students were me, my stuffed rabbit, and an American Girl doll. She'd line us up at the end of the bed and teach us whatever she'd learned in school that day. Now she teaches ESL at an elementary school in Boston, and every week she tells me stories about her students. Anna does not know how to read in Spanish, much less English, but she still wants to be a writer when she grows up. Juan chooses to stay inside and study at recess so that one day he'll be able to teach his own brother. These kids are good organs in a sick body. In 2001, No Child Left Behind gutted bilingual education. Students who have been in the country for 1 year are now expected to perform at grade level on standardized English tests. My sister is not allowed to instruct them in Spanish. If the kids don't jump high enough, the school loses money. Improving a school by picking its pockets is like tuning a guitar by ripping off the strings. Learning to read in a new language before you can even read in your own is like learning to walk while a pit bull is chasing you, like learning to sing with the conductor's fist down your throat. This year for my sister's birthday, I got books for her students, a poem on one page in Spanish, the next in English. She is not allowed to help them read the first. Their heritage is a banned book. Learning to read in a new language when you can't even read in your own is like trying to heal a burn victim by drowning them. We are telling these children who have spent their whole lives in the deep end that they'll learn how to swim if they just float out a little farther. In the 1980s, American slaughterhouses began building corrals in curves so no animals could see the blood at the end of the tracks. This is how we kept them moving forward. In 2001, we began building the hallways of our schools in curves. This is how we keep them moving forward. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you drop out. I know. I am lucky enough to be one of the winners of this game. I was handed a head start and a rule book in my own tongue, but the winners of a rigged game should not get to write the rules. On the television, some senator preaches that throwing money at an urban school is like feeding caviar to your dog. They just won't know how to appreciate it. After all, if these parents can't take care of their own children, why should we? Well, tell that to Anna, who has my sister translate newsletters aloud to her father because he too was never taught how to read. Tell that to Juan, whose mother and baby brother are still in Guatemala, whose father works 3 jobs. My sister tells me school is the most stable place in these kids' lives. She has been a teacher since she was smaller than they are. But since when does being a teacher mean having to swear not to help? Since when does being a teacher mean having your hands tied while the schoolhouse burns to the ground? We are leading these children along a track built in circles as their lungs fill with smoke, telling them it is their fault. They can't find a way out.
Dylan Garrity from Slam MN.
Fresh show.
On a Tuesday, Arthur Delaney, he's been here, but Igor Volsky comes up next at top of the next hour.
Scandal in the Bernie Sanders campaign because there was a rally in Los Angeles for Bernie Sanders earlier this week, and Tommy Chong was supposed to speak, one half of Cheech and Chong, and he says that he's very insulted because the Bernie Sanders campaign dropped him as a speaker. They said they no longer needed Mr. Chong to introduce Bernie at the LA rally, and they dropped him just hours before it was supposed to take place. The disrespect to Tommy Chong is not good.
I wonder who did it instead.
I don't know, actually. Let's see I didn't see that.
Well, I guess he won't get every vote in California.
I guess not.
No, all right. Back with Igor Volsky coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump meeting with Senator Bob Corker yesterday, but Corker insists there is no vice presidency, no nomination in sight. Oh, yeah? Hello, everybody. What do you say? I don't believe that for a second. Tuesday, May 24. Good to see you. And here we go. The Bill Press Show, hour number 2 on this Tuesday. Thank you for being part of the program. And you know how you really be part of the program is give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Get your voice in the mix and send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We know it's hard to get a word in edgewise when Igor Volsky is in studio, but we still encourage you to try as we say good morning to Prince Igor, Deputy Director of the Center for American Progress Action Fund.
Good morning.
Hello, Prince. Everything good?
Everything great.
All right. Thank you for making it in again today.
Well, it's actually nice out in D.C. today, so I
By
decided
the way,
to venture
for
out.
a change, right?
I know.
I think, knock on wood, I think we've got 3 days in a row here, or 2 days in a row, today and tomorrow, we're going to have no rain.
Oh, man.
We better if you and I are going to the Nats game tomorrow.
Yeah. It's not supposed to rain tomorrow.
Oh, all right. That stadium does not have a lot of shelter.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
I've been caught in the rain at that stadium. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson. Hello.
Hey, now.
Hey.
And Ray Rogers. Your calls welcome at 866-55-PRESS. She's the one who will take care of you. And Cyprian Bolding has us looking good on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Donald Trump down at the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was actually the morning after. He was so pumped up over the NRA and getting the
Got the endorsement, I know.
That he calls in Fox and Friends on Sunday morning to make it very, very clear where he stands on guns in the classroom, as Stephen Colbert reminded us last night.
On Fox and Friends, clarifying his position once and for all.
I don't want to have guns in classrooms, although in some cases teachers should have guns in classrooms, frankly.
So, no guns in classrooms unless guns in classrooms.
Pretty clear.
Settled.
That, yeah.
I think we just heard Donald Trump's education plan. Kids will learn math by counting how many different positions he takes in one sentence.
That's
and
a
the
common
idea.
core.
It is true on so many issues. In fact, including on guns. Is he for the assault ban or against it, right? Is he for longer waiting periods
Or is he,
against
yeah.
it? Yeah, right. So
It was a big weekend for the Donald as he made his way to Kentucky to accept the endorsement, gave a big speech, and it was kind of a standard stump speech, but he just sprinkled a couple of gun references. You know, his standard getting rid of gun zones, this idea that gun zones only invite crime, completely untrue. 87% of mass shootings happen in places where guns are allowed.
Mm-hmm.
guns in classrooms, guns in schools, really just reading out of the NRA platform these days. But yes, in 2000, in his book, he said longer waiting periods, a ban on assault weapons. And now, of course, he's singing a different tune.
The other thing that gets me is...
Why are you laughing?
I just think it's amazing that he can get away. I mean, people just don't care.
No.
And I don't, I mean, like we care, obviously, but the people who support Donald Trump don't care.
There is, I think, the sense, though, that, I mean, you said you wouldn't be able to get a word in edgewise, Bill, so I'm really just living up to that introduction.
Take it and run.
But there is the sense, I think,
You're
that...
just a guest today. You are not the guest host today.
But Peter told me. I think there's a sense that people realize he has a lot of different positions. He has a lot of contradictions. But I think at this point, conservatives believe that they can control him, right?
Yeah.
That now that he agrees with them or says publicly that he agrees with them, that's good enough, and they think they can hold him accountable and make sure he doesn't stray when the time
Guess what? They are
comes.
dead wrong.
I think so.
Yeah, right. Igor Volsky with us for the first half hour, and then we're going to be joined by Noah Bookbinder from Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. I know it sounds like a contradiction. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Some very interesting data coming out of NASA's study on Jupiter. They took a look at not only Jupiter, but Jupiter's moons. They released some data yesterday saying that asteroids hit Jupiter between 6 and 7 times every single year. And they took a look at Jupiter's moon, largest moon, Europa, and said that it has a chemical balance similar to Earth. They say that hydrogen and oxygen in Europa's ocean could produce, without the aid of volcanic activity, functionality that people like life could live there. NASA says that they're going to send a mission to Europa within 10 years to investigate. So we're going to Jupiter.
All right.
It's going to be unmanned, of course, but like we're going to go check it out and see how it looks.
Unless they come here first.
Unless they come here first. Good point. Baseball player Tony Gwynn passed away in 2014. He died of salivary gland cancer. He was only 54 years old when he died, and he said at the time he thinks that the fact that he chewed tobacco contributed to it. He says that at his height, he was chewing 1.5 to 2 packs a day for 30 years.
Ooh.
Well, his family announced yesterday that they are going to sue Altria, which is formerly known as the Philip Morris Company, because they said kept this chewing tobacco kept finding its way into Major League Baseball, and that they're going to say that they had a big hand in the death of Tony Gwynn. It's very interesting to see how this goes because a lot of ball players
They've banned it now for
Yes.
baseball, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be so gross. You would see people.
See it everywhere.
Yeah.
You'd see it everywhere. And Chipotle is still fighting to get their customers back, but we learned some details of a new loyalty program. We knew that this was coming. They want to try and reward customers who eat at Chipotle 25 times per year or more. This is their goal, right? So you got to eat at Chipotle 25 times per year, and that they're going to reward you somehow. They didn't exactly say how they're going to reward you, but we do have a name. Their rewards program, according to Eater, is going to be Chiptopia. Chiptopia. That's going to get everybody back in the mix for Chipotle.
You know, I eat at Chipotle all the time because it's very close to my house.
It's a good chain.
So at least twice a week.
And you haven't gotten salmonella?
Have not died yet.
Have you gotten E. coli?
You're going to be one of their frequent flyers.
Yeah, I'm going to be a chip.
Welcome to Chiptopian.
Chiptopian, yes. I'll be the
You're
first
a Chiptopian.
Chiptopian.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have frequent flyer miles on United, on American Airlines, on Amtrak.
Yeah.
I don't think
You don't have one on Chipotle?
No, I don't.
Not yet, anyway.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Let's go back to the NRA for just a second because it raises the question. I was also amused by the fact that he declared, of course, that Hillary will take away your guns, which is exactly what they said against Barack Obama.
Of course.
In 2008.
I mean, he better get going if he's going to do it. There's only a couple of months left there.
And they said it again in 2012. And people still believe this crap. You know, I mean, so now they're saying it about Hillary. But that does get to the question. The fact that Barack Obama is president of the United States and has been for the last 7.5 years proves to me that the clout of the NRA is not as great or as powerful as people believe it is. Is that, am I
think
right?
to some degree it's true. I mean, certainly, on one hand, they did block background checks after Newtown. On the other hand, you did have several states like Connecticut and Colorado lead the way in gun reform on the state level. So I think, and the fact that even though they spent, I used to know this, I think it's like $14 million in 2014 to elect the Congress we currently have, they haven't been able to advance any pieces of agenda since then, and we're now in 2016. So
they blocked a lot.
They blocked a lot, but they also got nothing done, even though they had the majority.
So I guess the answer really is that in terms of the general electorate, they don't have the clout they may have once had. But in terms of this Congress, they can do a lot there because of the lobbying and the money that they spend on these Republican members.
Well, they do, but they've because of where the public is, I think, for a lot of reasons, they haven't been able to move legislation through Congress.
And there are a lot of members of Congress, like John Yarmouth, who is a frequent guest here from Kentucky. You know, the NRA ran against him, right? And he has beat them every time.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a clean record on that. But let me just say one other thing. I watched a lot of the convention, and I have to say the racial rhetoric is so strong. Take our country back. The sexist rhetoric is phenomenal. Chris Cox, who is their main chief lobbyist here in D.C., joked about Hillary Clinton looking like a horse, joked about the fact that she's going to be setting up twin beds in the White House. I mean, just really, really vile stuff. And you look at that crowd, and it's older. It's very, very white. There's almost no people of color. I think Progress had a reporter there, reported almost no people of color there. I started the hashtag NRA So White. That's really the constituency, the old Republican constituency. It's a constituency that doesn't see itself in the country anymore, really, because of the demographics, because of how the country's changing, because of all the social change we're undergoing. And so the NRA, which was once, like a hunting club, is now really becoming, I think, a bastion for the folks who feel left behind. And that fuels a lot of the rhetoric, a lot of the political activity.
Donald Trump, of course, on another issue, has been a climate change denier in part of his life, but apparently not in all of his life.
This is really extraordinary. He's been saying for a long time, climate change is a hoax. It's pseudoscience. He joked that it's a con orchestrated by the Chinese for them to somehow profit. I don't understand. And it turns out, Politico reported yesterday that the Donald Trump golf course in Ireland is now trying to convince the county in Ireland, wherever it is located, to allow them to build a wall to stop. Yeah, it's the other wall. The other wall. The wall you haven't heard of.
Yeah, but who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. It's like a wall of rocks, 200,000 tons of rock they want to put around this golf course to prevent erosion. Why? Because of global warming will increase sea level, will increase erosion to the greatest golf course in the world.
We're going to build a wall on my golf course. What is it with the wall?
The wall. He loves him a wall. The man loves him a wall.
They say in the fair filings they need to do this because of climate change, global warming, and the rise in sea levels.
Yes, and because
they say attribute it to climate change.
Attribute directly to climate change, saying we're seeing erosion now, but because of global warming and the projected intensity of storms and of sea level rise, we need this protection. So on one hand, he is happy to protect his investment. On the other hand, he tells conservative voters what they want to hear.
And I'm sure, by the way, some of his golf courses in Florida are going to be similarly threatened.
Yes,
right?
I'm sure he's made similar arguments there as well, or at least his business managers have.
So have to have walls in Florida.
Yeah. Only if it's good for his business will he accept it. That's kind of gross.
So while we're on the Trump theme, I was interested and amused, actually, with Paul Ryan's statement this week to Glenn Thrush of Politico that he does believe that Donald Trump could win, but he's not betting on it.
He's not betting. I mean, to be fair, I don't think Paul Ryan has a lot of money. I mean, to be fair, I don't think he does. Not betting on it, because it really contradicts what Paul Ryan says he stands for, right? Rhetorically, and kind of the way he's presented himself as this consensus builder that's at least says, maybe doesn't really work with Democrats, but says if you present to the American people a optimistic view of the future that in Paul Ryan's mind is obviously kind of contextualizing conservative principles, that's how you win elections. And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of all of that. And so if Paul Ryan were to endorse Donald Trump, it would be to reject his entire vision of politics and how he sees himself. So it'd be strange to me if Ryan said, oh yeah, Trump can do it. I mean, this is from a man who lost in 2012, so I don't know how credible he is about his predictions. Caveat there.
I'm so looking forward to what we know is going to come up. I don't know how long it's going to take. The moment when Paul Ryan does actually endorse Donald Trump, and what reasoning or what spin that he puts on.
He'll find a reason. He'll find a reason to give a full-throated endorsement to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump will make no concessions to Paul Ryan. It's just going to happen.
Full-throated, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think you will. I think you will.
I
think you will.
Although, the full-throated, and it'll say, by the way, I'm not betting on it.
Yeah,
it's going to depend on how those House seats look, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, if Paul Ryan is sort of trying to make himself out to be the real leader of the Republican Party, right? Like, all these things about him coming out and saying, like, remember, what did he have, like 5 press conferences saying, oh, I'm not going to try and run for this at the convention, but I am going to lecture you about the sanctity of our party and all of that. Like, he's trying to be the grown-up in the room.
But if he feels that Trump could lose, he could win by saying he's not going to endorse him, because then he comes out in 2017, for the 4 years, and then after looking like the smart guy in the room.
But I also think that for any Republican to win in the future, they have to make those Trump supporters happy.
Yeah, that is true.
We've got it covered here on the Bill Press Show. And President Obama, a historic trip to Vietnam. What are we learning from that? Who's he hanging out with? Well, we're hanging out with Igor Volsky here in the studio. And we'll be right back. You can join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home, or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Igor Volsky from the Center for American Progress Action Fund, AmericanProgress.org, here in studio with us. Peter, tell the world about the Daily Post, because, Igor, this gets to a big question.
Yeah, okay, so the New York Post, their
rather.
cover, the headline is Dirty Bills, and they have a picture of Bill Clinton and Bill Cosby on the cover, and it talks about Trump unveiling his rape ad versus Bill Clinton, and Bill Cosby saying that he drugged teens for sex. Dirty Bills.
Makes the point, this is going to be an ugly campaign, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And to what extent this plays, I wonder how this stuff polls, particularly with the people who Trump needs to attract. Who is this appealing to? If he has a problem with women, I mean, I guess that's where he's going. He has a problem with African Americans. He has a problem with Hispanics, independents. I mean, although it's right where Romney was, where Romney ended up. The question is, who does this appeal to? How does this poll? And the Clinton people say, you know, we've litigated this. We've relitigated this time and time again. The American people are sick of this. It's an open question.
Which is why I think it backfires. I really do. I just think people have been over it and dealt with it. Certainly one generation of Americans, and then the millennials. It's 20 years ago, right?
You know, and you take all this stuff, and
I don't think you can make it the big issue.
And you think,
today.
you take all this stuff, and you think this is coming from a guy who's been married once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, had an affair, was hiding his mistress. I mean,
yeah.
This isn't like it's not a clean whistle, this guy.
You know why we always see Melania with Donald Trump, don't you? Because all of his other wives are supporting Hillary.
Is that? Did you? That's good. Did you just?
Thanks, Igor. Great to see you.
Is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now, it is the Bill Press Show indeed. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, where we are brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox, keeping our federal agencies running and serving us, and proud to work for America every day. We salute them for their good work and thank them for the support of the program. You can check out their work at their website, afge.org. Here in Washington, we are used to all the bad news and all the scandals, and the idea of ethics in Washington sounds like a contradiction. But there is a group of our watchdogs for us to make sure that members of Congress are, sticking as close to the rules as they can. It's the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, Executive Director Noah Bookbinder, joining us in studio. Noah, good to see you.
Hi, Bill. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for what you're doing. Let's talk about somebody who's not here yet, but who's heading, he'd like to believe that he's heading for Washington, Donald Trump, but refusing to release his tax returns. Is that a problem?
It is a problem. Every major party nominee since 1980 has released their tax returns. It's a way of telling, this is a nominee who talks a whole lot about how successful he's been, how generous he is. Tax returns are going to reveal a lot about his income, about his charitable giving, about use of tax shelters, about how much he's actually paying in taxes and how he'd be affected by the tax plans he sets out, all of which are relevant information for the voters. But it actually goes beyond that. This is somebody for whom we've seen one set of tax returns, and they suggest some real problems.
When did they come out?
Well, he's got a charitable foundation called the Trump Foundation. And because it's a nonprofit charitable foundation, its tax returns have to be made public. Mm-hmm. And so we've reviewed those. We actually started looking at that, not because he was the likely Republican nominee, but because we had seen reports that the Trump Foundation had given a donation to the Attorney General, to a political organization associated with the Attorney General of Florida. It's a woman named Pam Bondi. That got some attention because that donation happened at a time when Florida was deciding whether or not to join a lawsuit against Trump University. You'll be shocked to learn that Florida did not join the lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
And so we saw an initial report about that, and our researchers looked at that and said, well, there's actually something else wrong there, which is that a charitable foundation should not be giving a contribution to a political organization.
I was going to ask you, that first question popped into my head.
Exactly. They're not allowed to do that. So we started looking further, and we looked at the tax filings of the Trump Foundation and saw that it not only had they given this illegal contribution, but they appear to have lied about it on their tax returns. The tax return said they didn't give any political contributions, but it actually listed that donation. It was a $25,000 donation. And it went to a group called And Justice for All, which is this political organization associated with the Attorney General of Florida. Mm-hmm. But instead, they listed the donation as having gone to a group called Justice for All, which is a nonprofit group based in Kansas, which would have been a proper donation. So, that seems like a major, either a monumental series of errors or they're trying to hide something.
Right.
So I think I know which one it was.
Yeah, I did. I think.
Yeah, I have
too.
a feeling that it might. Yeah,
no doubt about it. But so, what you're saying is that like a window into this one tax return that his foundation had to file may give us some clue about the kind of games that Donald Trump would have played with his own tax returns.
Sure. I mean, Donald Trump, when asked about his tax returns in the last couple of weeks, has said there's nothing to learn from them. They're perfectly fine. And
that's what Mitt Romney said, right?
Exactly. And we have one example to go from, and that one example has major problems with it. So it doesn't give us any confidence that there's nothing to learn in the other sets of tax returns.
The question is, will he get away with it?
It's hard to know, and the regular rules don't seem to apply in this case.
Exactly.
But
to Donald Trump.
But we certainly. This is not a new thing for CREW. We've been advocate. 2008. Going back at least as far as 2008, CREW has been saying that every major nominee should be releasing their tax returns.
Right.
They've all done so. We're going to keep calling for it, and we think that especially when you have a nominee whose financial dealings are sort of the basis of his campaign, and where there's this example that seems to suggest that maybe all is not right with his tax returns, we ought to keep putting pressure on him.
What about the fact that he is being audited?
So, I mean, it's interesting because the first...
Wouldn't a good tax lawyer tell you why you're being audited? You don't release your tax returns?
I mean, certainly I think that would probably be the advice to you or me. I think it's different when you're running for president, that the public has a right to know, all the information it can know. And actually, the first time that a president released tax returns, at least as far as I know, was Richard Nixon in 1973. And the reason he released those returns, I know, it's kind of amazing.
Sorry. I can't figure out if that's poetic or ironic.
Seriously. But the reason he released those tax returns was because the press had reported that he was being audited, and he wanted to try to clear the air about what was going on. So not only did it show that you could release tax returns when you were being audited, but that's why he did it.
And the IRS says that an audit is not it does not mean you can't release your returns. It is not a reason for saying I can no way release my returns. So the IRS basically is given a green light. It's still up to the individual.
There's also an interesting little thing that the way that Trump talks about the audit, his people say it's an ongoing audit, right? Which means that there is no end in sight, right? So he's got this excuse built in for as long as he wants.
That's right. I mean, he's been, according to him at least, audited for years, maybe decades at this point. The other thing that's interesting is, I mean, he said in interviews before he jumped into the race that he would release his tax returns. He was apparently being audited then. He, in 2012, urged Mitt Romney to release his tax returns, said he would do the same in that position. He was being audited then, so this is not a new thing that suddenly came up and prevented him from, made him change his mind.
Right. How about Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders has only released 1 year, I believe. Correct?
I think that's right. I think certainly that's better, and we would just generally urge all candidates to release as many tax returns as they can. I think that really the standard has generally been when somebody becomes a major party nominee, they release their tax returns, and so I'm not sure that the same that all the same principles apply. But look, we'd like to see all candidates releasing their as many returns as possible.
Yeah. My belief is that we would be underwhelmed by Bernie's returns, and then wouldn't that be all these questions? But with Trump, it's just invites. I mean, he's got so many properties, so many different business interests, and we're talking casinos and golf courses and God knows what, right? And then he brags about his wealth.
Right. I mean, and
so he invites, questions about what might be on his tax returns.
That's right. I mean, this is a person who has actually said that his net worth goes up and down depending on his feelings. What does that mean? So, tax returns would give a lot more insight into what we're actually talking about here.
Right. Noah Bookbinder is here with us from CREW. Oh, it's Citizens for Ethics. That's right. Citizensforethics.org. CREW is the acronym for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. I want to get back to some members of Congress and what you're finding out about little maybe ethics concerns on that front when we come back here on the Bill Press Show. And if you have a question or a comment about Donald Trump's tax returns or any scandals you might have heard about here in Washington, here's your man, 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Maybe not as loud as Donald Trump, but he's a hell of a lot smarter. This is your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election, The Bill Press Show.
14 minutes before the top of the hour, here we go on The Bill Press Show. By the way, at the top of the next hour, you've heard us talk perhaps, if you are a regular listener, about the great new documentary on former Congressman Anthony Weiner. It's just called Weiner, and it is it's a great film. If it comes near you, you got to go see it. The directors of that film are going to be here in studio with us at the top of the next hour. Lots of, I'm sure, good stories about
Yeah, I can't wait.
what ended up in a very powerful film. Right now we're talking with Noah Bookbinder, who is the executive director of a great organization, Our Watchdogs in Washington, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW. So, keeping on top of these members of Congress and making sure. But by the way, so we do have an ethics committee in the House and in the Senate. My impression always is that they don't do anything unless it's really, really, really bad. I guess. How good a job are they doing?
I think your sense is not unfair. We and others are always pushing them to do more, to be more aggressive. There was, in the wake of the last set of huge scandals, Tom DeLay and folks like that, there was created this Office of Congressional Ethics over on the House side, which is an independent group that does sort of the first round of investigations. We think that has helped, but they've been essentially fighting with the House Ethics Committee ever since, and they want the House Ethics Committee to be more aggressive. The House Ethics Committee wants them to back off a bit. So it certainly hasn't been I would think it's helped, but there's a long way to go. And it's I guess it's in some ways natural for members to be looking out for each other, but
Right.
It's not how you get effective policing of ethics.
All right, so one member of Congress that you have been looking at, Duncan Hunter from California, on what grounds?
So it looks like Congressman Hunter essentially has been repeatedly using campaign funds to pay for things that clearly are not campaign expenses. Those include merchandise from the store at Disney World, oral surgery for a member of his family, lots of expenses for video games. Looks like the campaign paid for a family trip to Italy, including a couple $100 at a jewelry store, which was mysteriously listed on campaign reports as food and beverages. I don't know. Certainly, any jewelry store I've been in doesn't serve food and beverages. He admitted to some of those. He paid back some money, but as we looked into it, there were a whole bunch more expenses that he hadn't admitted were improper. So we've been calling for.
What are these people thinking? They would use their campaign funds for oral surgery, pay for some, family members' oral surgery.
It's
weird.
It's really kind of astonishing. I mean, it kind of reminds me of. The same thing that we saw in that Trump situation. You don't know if this is somebody really trying to do something they shouldn't be doing, or just vast incompetence. But in either case, it's a big problem, and we've been calling for an investigation by the Federal Election Commission and the Office of Congressional Ethics. And every time we look, we find more.
Yeah, and has that happened yet? Is he? It's not whether he's being charged, but is he under investigation?
Well, we know the Federal Election Commission is looking. It actually was, they were the ones that found the first piece of it, which were these video game expenses. And that got him to admit that there were some problems, pay some money back. We've asked them to look a whole bunch more broadly.
He was buying these video games for himself?
So he claims that essentially his son used the wrong credit card. And the problem is that
the dog ate my homework.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
He's blamed his son. He's now blamed his wife, who was his campaign manager.
Of course.
And because there were a lot of supermarket expenses getting charged, gas. So he's sort of blaming everybody else. The more examples that come up, the harder these explanations are to believe.
What about the legalized ripoffs, like congressional delegations? These codels, they're called, right? Where when they take a break, they fly off around the world,
right,
on a government plane, and they have government cars take them around, and it's all just a phony free vacation, isn't it? At our expense?
Sure. I mean, it certainly, I think, started potentially in a legitimate place where members of Congress said we need to go to parts of the world that we are looking into.
I can see that. It's good to get a first-hand look at some situations.
Certainly, you see examples that stretch your credulity as to whether it's a legitimate case. There was a major instance a couple of years back, where a whole bunch of members of Congress went to this conference in Azerbaijan, which turned out to have been sponsored essentially by the government oil company, and you had members of Congress getting meals paid for, getting rugs, and not declaring those. And so, it seems like members are not always real careful about making sure that what they're doing is for the right reasons and paid for by the right people. And, in terms of the sort of legal, legitimate influence peddling that we see, one thing that Crew just did recently is we looked into new members of Congress. So they get into office, and and a lot of them get in saying that they're going to change Washington, that they're going to avoid the special interests. 2014 was a wave election. A lot of some Democrats, but mostly Republicans, saying that they were outsiders. They were going to change the way things were done, and we found that when they get in, they go right to the special interests. That in 2015, these new members of Congress raised more money from special interest political action committees than in the 2-year election cycle before they got into office.
God. But you know what happens? I guess they get here, and then particularly members of the House, they have to turn around and run for re-election right away.
That's right.
And they're required to raise so much money for their party leadership, plus their own re-election funds. So they start sucking up to the special interest. That's where the money is here. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But it's kind of ironic when you have members like there's a new member from Maine, Bruce Poliquin, who when he was running for election said he wasn't coming to Washington to go to cocktail parties and hang out with special interests. And of course, he's raised almost $500,000 from special interests since he got here.
See, you may not be polluted before you get here, but we'll pollute you once you arrive. Washington, D.C.
Yeah, just we don't get our hooks in yet.
All right. I'm so glad you guys are on the job there with crew. Noah, thank you for all that you're doing.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks for coming in this morning, too.
Glad to
Remember,
be here.
it's citizensforethics.org.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Here we go, getting you ready for hour number 3 here on the Bill Press Show. Hour number 3 at 5 Eastern, little delay, 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific on Free Speech TV, or right away on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. You can jump over there. A great new documentary out. All of us have seen it, about Anthony Weiner, called Weiner. The directors of that documentary will be in studio with us. We're also going to be talking food policy with a senior food and agricultural reporter for Politico. You won't want to miss hour number 3. Stay tuned. And last night with Anthony Bourdain, our good friend, and they went out to dinner at a little small little restaurant.
As Bourdain said, cheap, delicious noodles.
Right, and beer.
And beer.
And the whole meal cost $6. Anthony Bourdain paid. When we come back, Weiner is a new documentary. You've got to see it. We'll talk to the directors of Weiner right here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Senator Bob Corker says no to a trip on Air Force One to Vietnam so he can meet with Donald Trump in New York yesterday. Talk about priorities. But he insists they did not talk about any vice presidential nomination. Hello, everybody. If you believe that, I got a bridge I'll sell you. Pretty cheap. Tuesday, May 24, it's the Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital. That's where physically we are, but actually we're there with you all across this great country of ours on the radio, your local progressive talk radio station, of course, and on television, on Free Speech TV. We're right there alongside of you on the radio, on TV, and thank you for joining us. Lots to talk about today. We are very excited to welcome to the studio here at the top of the hour. And our team here, as always, of course, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello.
Hey.
Here we go.
Ray Rogers on the phones, 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer as well. And our team had a team outing a couple of weeks ago to see a powerful new documentary called Weiner, all about former Congressman Anthony Weiner and his race for mayor in New York City, which turned out to be a little more exciting, perhaps, than he anticipated. The directors of that documentary are here in studio with us, Elise Steinberg and Josh Kriegman. Hello, guys. Nice to see you.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Coming in.
Thanks for
Welcome
having us.
back to D.C.
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah. We had such a great time and enjoyed the movie so much. It's just a great piece of work. So.
Oh, that's great
Is
to
this your
hear.
first documentary?
It's my first. Elise has been working on documentaries for years.
Yeah, I made a feature documentary about the trial of Saddam Hussein before this.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to think we're tragic figures, I guess.
Yes, a little different.
Well, you understand Saddam Hussein, Anthony Weiner. Yeah. Is there a direct line there?
Pretty dramatic falls from grace, I would say.
Yeah. But now, first of all, how the film is now out where?
So it's right now in limited release in New York and L.A., and then it gets released on Friday in theaters around the country, including in D.C.
So hopefully will be coming near you. Just make a date, get out and see it.
You've got to go see it. It's so good.
So well done, and also so tragic at the same time. And the question all of us had is, how did you ever get Anthony Weiner's permission to make a documentary that is so damaging to him?
Yeah, well, I actually met Anthony when working for him in politics. I was his district chief of staff for a couple of years in New York and got to know him well through political work. And then left politics and started working in filmmaking with Elise. And And that was when he had his scandal and resigned from Congress. And it was after he resigned that we started a conversation with him about the possibility of making a documentary, whether that would be something that he would want us to do.
Was he already running for mayor then?
No, so this was during the 2 years between when he resigned and then decided to run for mayor. And so there was a conversation that went on through that time. It was actually a very long back and forth with him about whether he would want to let us film. And it was then when he decided to run for mayor of New York 2 years after he resigned that he actually sent me a text message early that morning saying that he was in the race and agreeing to let us film for the documentary. And so I literally ran over with a camera and started shooting and shot the whole race from beginning to end.
You were there at that, as I recall, on that initial announcement, right? When he, at least for...
Well, yes. I mean, Josh did primarily all the shooting, but we were in touch throughout the production. And we were consulting, and we were there on day one when he first began, and he announced he was running for mayor. Which in our film, you just see it was a media frenzy from the get-go.
Yeah, no, it was. But I must say, before we get into that, is that as a member of Congress, and you show, I thought very effectively, some clips right up front in the documentary about, he's a firebrand member of Congress. I mean, I loved the fact, as a liberal, as a progressive, that he was just such a strong voice, and there was no better debater on the floor of the House than Anthony Weiner. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, then the film opens with the YouTube clip that went viral, which in many ways kind of launched him into prominence in the Democratic Party. Where
I will not yield.
Exactly.
No, I will not.
Exactly. And he likes to joke that he maintained regular order throughout the rant, but he was basically just expressing a kind of outrage, in this case about the 9/11 healthcare bill. But I think, he embodied an ethos that I think really resonated with progressives, a willingness to really to be outraged when warranted and to be unafraid to express progressive values very strongly.
And he sort of, to me at least, he reflected New York.
Absolutely.
That New York attitude, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He has a kind of brashness, tell it as it is, outspokenness, and it was something that I think New Yorkers really responded to. And as Josh was saying, a lot of progressives, like when he was out there, screaming on the House floor, people were responding to him. It was, he was making himself a lightning rod for progressive issues.
So he gets into the mayor's race, and he's got this scandal behind him, and then he and Huma talk about it, and yes, my career in politics is not over, so they make this bold move to actually put himself out there as a candidate for mayor. He must have known at the time that he's still got stuff that hasn't come out yet that could come out, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was very open about the fact that there was more stuff out there that he expected to come out. I mean, when he first got into the race, he did a round of interviews with reporters, and he acknowledged, yes, there's more stuff out there, and there's a good chance that it might come out. He didn't. What ended up sort of causing him trouble was he didn't specify sort of exactly the timeline of when he started and stopped this behavior, and he presented it in a way that felt different than it ultimately was.
In other words, we were led to believe that it had stopped, and when he was running for mayor, but it hadn't stopped, had it?
Well,
it had stopped when he was running for mayor, but the detail that really
continued after he left Congress.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. So I think, I think that after he got in, people did think that it was behind him, and he had done a People magazine ad where he had talked about them getting past it after he resigned.
One of the most interesting things I think about the movie is not only focusing on the political side of Anthony Weiner, but the media. Because as you just mentioned, we did know that other things were out there, and yet this still turned into the biggest story around when it hit. So, I mean, did that factor into how you made it, not only to show Anthony Weiner, but also to show sort of the reaction and the way that the media treated him?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we did want to show in this film is it is more than just one person or one campaign, but it provides a look at our politics today as driven by an appetite for entertainment and spectacle. And we see the way sensational headliners and tweets just become the focus of our media, and it's about sensationalism.
But It's interesting too, though. Anthony says in the film that he doesn't blame the media, right? He acknowledges that it would be too facile to suggest that it was the media's fault somehow. He obviously played his role, and he also, ironically, is this incredibly media savvy guy from the get-go who understands the rhythms of the media, how it works, and he recognized that they were doing their part, and that's just part of how the system functions.
All right, so I understand why he, driven, ego, and seriously interested in public policy, might put himself there running for mayor and invite you in to record the whole thing. Why did Huma agree to it?
That's a great question. I think, just as Anthony was reduced to a caricature and a punchline, so is she. In our film, you really get to see the judgment that was placed upon her for being the woman at the center of this media firestorm. And I think while she is more quiet and reserved than Anthony, I do think she shared some of his desire of wanting a more fair and complete story told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's so painful. There are moments that are so painful for her. And you can see it. You can feel it, right?
No, it was a very stressful time. And one of the things that we wanted to show in this film is what it means to be at the center of a scandal. We see these images play out all the time, but what does it look like? What does it feel like? These are, human beings at the center of it. So you do see a different side of her. You also see her as a wife, a mother, a person with a really important job, going through, a very challenging situation.
So there are moments where it is pretty tense, right? And new stuff is breaking, and it's pretty ugly. And he'll say, okay, will you guys just, to this step, will you kind of get out of the room, please, and just leave me and Huma here? But it's not just him and Huma. It's him and Huma and you, the camera.
Yeah, no,
I just don't understand how they didn't say, no, you too this time, get out of here.
That's exactly right. I mean, there definitely was, there were a number of moments throughout shooting, and it was mostly just myself with the camera throughout the course of the 4 months of shooting. But there were definitely moments like that one on the morning that this news broke, and he does, as you said, he asks his staff to leave, but he allows me to stay. And certainly the thought crossed my mind at that moment, I can't believe I'm here right now. No doubt. And it's a very intense experience, for me as well. I know these people. I recognize, I feel for them. I recognize the intensity of what's happening. But of course, as documentarians, there's a kind of remove that happens as, you're seeing things through the screen of the camera and keeping it rolling and wanting to document as much as you can of what's going on.
So at one moment, I remember so powerfully, he's in the car, right? And he realizes, oh, I lied about that, or whatever, I think, and he's really grappling with it. And somebody says, "Why are you letting me do this?" That's you, isn't it?
That's me, yeah.
By the way, I'm sure you've got this. The entire theater just erupted in laughter, when that happened, because it's so perfectly timed.
Well, what was the exact question?
I said, "Why did you let me film this?" And it is towards the very end of the film. It's a question that. Part of the reason why I think people laugh is because it's sort of on everyone's mind to some degree.
Yeah.
And he shrugs in that moment, but he does go on then to answer it to some degree. I mean, he talks about wanting to be seen as Elise was saying, as more than just a punchline and as the full person that he was. I think that he and Huma both, there's a sense that opening up their lives to the camera there'd be some value in documenting a different version of the story than what was likely to play out in the headlines of the New York Post and the tabloids and cable news and everything else.
So Elise, when you showed this documentary to Anthony and Huma, what was their reaction?
Well, they actually haven't seen it. We offered to show it to them many months ago before the film was entirely finished. And Anthony, he has said that he's not eager to relive it.
I don't blame him.
And we certainly respect that, and we look forward to hearing his thoughts when he has. Yeah.
The interesting thing when you with Huma specifically, right? Like when you talk about the movie and we talk about the media and we talk about the politics, but the philosophy, what goes on inside the mind of a politician or the spouse of a politician, it's really remarkable what you captured in that sense, because it's still all about optics, right? Like I'm not giving anything away from the movie. There's a moment where Huma looks at the camera and she goes, "I'm in a living hell," and she's got this grin on her face that is very, put on for the cameras, and Anthony Weiner has the same sort of thing, right? Like he's obviously very frustrated throughout the movie, but he gets out of the car and he's got this great big grin on his face. And so, like, I guess the philosophy of running for office, right? The mindset you have to put yourself in to run for office, I think is captured really well.
Yeah, and our hope for the film is that it really, whatever preconceptions people, we've had this experience now with people who've seen the film. A lot of people walk in with certain preconceptions about Anthony, about Huma, about the scandal, from what we've gleaned from media. And our hope from the film is that, whatever judgments you walk away with, at least you're surprised at how much more complex and nuanced it all really is.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It's very different than you think behind the headlines.
As good as any Shakespearean tragedy. Weiner, we must see it. Stay with us. I've got lots more questions when we come back. Take a quick break here on the Bill Press Show. If you have or haven't seen the documentary, have a question, or if you remember Anthony Weiner, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom.
Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Make it 24 minutes after the hour. We're going to talk food policy in the next half hour. Right now we're talking about the new documentary Wiener coming to your town, but maybe by the end of the week, hopefully. Got to go see it. The directors, Josh Kriegman and Lee Steinberg, in studio with us. One of the most powerful scenes, I think, of the whole thing we haven't talked about yet is toward the end. He's just about at the end of the rope, too. And Anthony's in this deli, and he's leaving, and somebody says something to him. And he gets into this shouting match with this guy, and he won't let it go. Neither one of them will. Why didn't he just walk away? I mean, and that became viral, went everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
Why didn't he just walk away?
Yeah, it's a good question, and actually, there's a guy on the street in the film who asks that question. He says, why did he do this? He didn't need this, right? I think.
I mean, you were there, but in this case, every camera in New York was there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he did. He was a little bit frayed at the edges by the end. I think he really was. After months and months of facing down ridicule and all the. Everything coming his way. I think he was definitely pretty worn down.
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, it had been a brutal campaign and it was coming towards the end. So you definitely see a kind of fatigue and.
But then you also, and then this plays out in the course of the film. You see the way the media at first says, "Oh my God, he's lost it. He's having a meltdown on the campaign trail." But then you learn actually he was in part responding to this racist comment from this customer in the bakery who had referred to Huma with this epithet. So he definitely was. It's part of who he is too. He's not the kind of person who's gonna step away when someone says something like that to him.
And I think that scene also shows just the fast nature of how the media there's these various reports as it just keeps on growing and growing. A shouting match becomes, the biggest story, meltdown. And then you find out later, that there was a different angle that he had heard this epithet.
I had totally forgotten about that. I remember the blow up in the deli, but I remember once I saw it in your
he was
movie
responding to an ugly comment.
That was a really nasty comment that he was responding to.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about.
Yeah, and you get to see thematically, you get to see the way that these media narratives get constructed and defined, and then a piece of information that had been missed completely changes everything. And it's thematically, this is something we wanted to play with in the film was, the difference between the story that plays out publicly in the media and then the reality behind
the other thing that comes out clearly is that he was a candidate, had some really good ideas, really good proposals that he put forward for the city of New York. At least I felt that. Substantive. And he stayed in it until the end, right?
That's right.
He may have only gotten 4%, as I recall, but he stayed in it.
That's right. I think it's one of the things that we were surprised about as filmmakers. I mean, we did think that he might drop out. I mean, everyone was calling for him to drop off, and he didn't. And there's this moment in our film where he goes to City Island, and people are booing him, and it's the end.
Yes.
And he says, "Look, you think this is easy? But I'm fighting for something. I've got ideas that I care about." And the audience, they change around and they cheer him. And there is something admirable about him continuing to fight and not, crying in the corner and keep going. And I think that was something that you respond to.
That was a very powerful moment when he was replying to a guy who asked him a hostile question from the sidelines. Yeah. So it was great. We are just about out of time. So are you off on another project now?
We are.
Can you tell us all about it?
We can't yet talk about it, but we are working on a new project, which we're very excited about.
And you won for Wiener already the Grand Jury Award at
Sundance.
At Sundance.
That's
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. And thank you for your great work and bringing us this wonderful
It's been such a pleasure.
documentary.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to see it again. So
Yeah, totally.
coming back
Let's
East
see it
Street
again.
next week. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Elise. Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back. Talk food next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour. Here we go. The Bill Press Show wrapping up here on a Tuesday, May 24. As we come to you live from Washington, D.C. in our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. You put them all together. Sheet metal, air, rail, and transportation. You get the SMART Union, the good men and women of the SMART Union under President Joseph Sellers, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay every day, you bet. And check out their website at smart-union.org. 7.5 years into the Obama administration, First Lady Michelle Obama making obesity and good food habits, if you will, part of her legacy and her chief work. it's a good time to take a look and see how effective that campaign has been. Helena Budimiller-Evich is the senior food and agriculture reporter for Politico, who joins us in studio to talk about it. Hi, Helena. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So where are we? Has this whole campaign had any impact that we can measure and say whether it's been a success or not?
It's going to be years before we can measure whether or not we've actually turned a corner on childhood obesity, which is what she's really focusing on. But I think what's interesting about the nutrition facts update, which she unveiled Friday, is that we're going to have a visual legacy. So the nutrition facts is actually going to look different for probably decades to come. And the hope is that Americans might alter their behavior and eat a little bit healthier.
How is this different from the, what is the whole plate? Is that sort of what her thing is?
My plate?
My plate. Because it was the pyramid.
Yes, we
and
have
then they
My
said,
Plate now. They did. They overhauled the pyramid. That is one of the legacies that this administration will take also. They didn't think the food pyramid was effective, and they thought a plate would convey a simpler message. So My Plate, it's half the plate's fruits, the half of your plate's supposed to be fruits and vegetables. So they thought that was a much simpler message for people. And they claim that that website gets 50 million visits a year, which is a pretty broad reach for a government website.
Yeah. Well, so is this Department of Agriculture?
Yes, the Department of Agriculture does that. So the new label that they rolled out is actually out of the Food and Drug Administration, which regulates most of the food supply and all the nutrition labeling. We actually haven't updated nutrition labels since we first got them in 1994. So we've had the same old nutrition facts label for more than 20 years. It's considered the most reproduced graphic image in the world. That's a lot of the graphic designers view it as one of the most iconic images because it's so reproduced. It's on every packaging can and everything you buy.
The nutrition that's in that particular product.
Yeah,
right?
the nutrition facts, just that that black and white strip that's on most of your food packages. And so it's literally on billions of food packages every year that people are flipping over. Not everyone uses it, but most Americans report at least looking at it. And it provides people the basic information. The biggest change this year is they're adding a line where food manufacturers have to disclose how much added sugar is in products. And this is a controversial move. The food industry really did not want to do this. Although there's some division. There's some companies, Mars and Nestle, decided they were for it. But by and large, the food industry and the sugar groups really do not like
Big
this.
Sugar.
They think, yes,
you don't
they
want
think
to fight with Big Sugar.
They have certainly some prowess on Capitol Hill, but they were unsuccessful in beating this back. So it's considered a big win for the First Lady that they were able to keep that controversial part of the label in the final version.
All right. Now, I hate to be the skeptic here, but I mean, how many people, if they're thinking about what we're going to have for dinner tonight or we're planning a week's meals, looked at the food pyramid ever? Because I remember like in maybe grade school that I was taught about the food pyramid, but in and out, never meant anything to me. Or the food plate. I mean, who uses this as a guide at all?
Yeah, dietitians use it, and they use it, like you mentioned, in elementary and middle school. Any health education that schools are doing, what little is left.
My kids know about it.
Yeah,
they do.
They know the plate.
Yeah, my kids know about the plate.
I think it's we've missed all of that.
Yeah.
But if schools are doing any nutrition lesson plans, which is impressive because a lot of schools are just skipping that altogether because they're so crammed in with other things. But if they are still doing it, they are probably using My Plate. So it's for the younger. It's mostly targeted younger.
And
it's
My Plate
also
shows that My Plate, this is the way it should look.
Vegetables.
Half fruits and vegetables.
A quarter protein, a quarter grain, half fruits and vegetables. So it's just quadrants. Yes, there.
Yeah.
See, it's simple. And it's also designed for people being able to understand it even if they don't speak English or are illiterate. It's supposed to be more kind of
Now, on this one quarter of the plate, could you have beef, chicken, fish? You could have,
it just says protein. So this was a little bit of a thing.
Tofu,
It didn't
Bill.
say It didn't say meat
not on my plate.
specifically. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah. So it could be, yes, it could be.
Tofu's out here. It's an island by itself that you could just
There's
ignore.
also a circle out here for dairy that you're missing. But, these are, so the plate's a symbolic change, but they also changed the messaging that went along with it. For the first time, they, on a government USDA website, said eat less. This is considered controversial because USDA's whole mission is to promote food, food producers, agriculture producers. So there's been
smaller servings, in other words.
Right. And so these are symbolic changes. The labeling, the food industry will probably change some of its actual recipes to sort of dial down sugar in response. So it'll probably have a more substantive impact on the food we actually eat.
So child obesity, is there any indication, or do we have any evidence that it's working in that there are fewer children who are not just overweight but obese?
There's some early research that showed a couple positive trends, perhaps in the youngest children, like preschool-age children, low-income children, but it's too early. If you zoom out and overall look at all demographics, it's not going down. It's flatlining at best. So, you can ask, is this effort helping? Would it have continued to go up? We don't know that. It's going to be years before they can really tell whether or not this is working.
And some of the ways that they've tried to get at that, right?
School lunch, the big one.
School lunch is a big one. And no soft drinks.
That was huge. Bill Clinton, actually, the Clinton Foundation helped negotiate that. They got all full-calorie soda out of schools several years ago. So that's definitely reduce the sugar consumption in schools. So the theory would be in a few years you might see some impact from that. But they just 2 years ago changed all the meals. So there's more fruits and vegetables and whole grain, less sugar and salt. And that was all part of another part of the First Lady's campaign. So that's 30 million kids each day eat the school lunch, school breakfast.
Right. It really is. When I think about what was available when I was in school,
it was bad. I ate school lunch.
It was so bad. It was so bad. And just like sodas galore, fried chicken sandwiches, pizza, just
there was no
garbage. Total garbage.
I ate pizza every day in high school.
Yeah.
A piece of pizza every day. Yeah. So now they at least have to balance this with other things. There's sweet potato fries are really popular in schools now. They do whole grain. If they do a chicken patty sandwich, it's whole grain breaded. I mean, it's not fundamental. The French fries are still there, despite what Ted Cruz said. He was like, Heidi Cruz will bring back French fries. French fries didn't go anywhere. They're just not deep fried anymore.
Yeah.
So, the tater tots have not been banished.
What a thing to fight for. Oh, we're going to make our kids fat again on fried potatoes.
Well, you have to remember, these are taxpayer-funded meals. So the idea that we would have some nutrition standards attached to the funding, it's, probably $20 billion a year. It's not outrageous that we would,
They're probably serving a lot of kale, too, aren't they?
I don't know how popular kale has become in school meals. That would be a good
California
story.
has.
Yeah. The First Lady did say...
I can tell you, it has,
on Friday,
kale chips.
Yes.
Big in
so you're into kale chips, but
California.
not tofu. So you'll eat kale chips, but not tofu.
I didn't say.
He did say.
I didn't say I would. I didn't say I would eat them. I'm just
popular.
saying they're popular. Yeah.
The First Lady on Friday said, "Oh, I'm going to keep working on this." She was really, post White House, cheering it on. And one of the things she pointed to that the food culture shifting. She said kale sales are up 50% in 4 years. Like, it's Steph Curry. He's doing Brita instead of soda, and he's promoting fruits and vegetables. So, there's some cultural, I think, shifts happening, at least in some demographics.
Yeah. So I guess then the focus on children, fine, but what is happening to grown-ups, right? Or in restaurants and meals even at home with grown-ups. She's on it, Helena Badamelder-Evich from Politico, senior food and agricultural reporter. I'm impressed that Politico even has somebody on this beat. It's an important beat. Your questions, your comments, we'll find out more about it from Helena when we come back. You know how to join us, 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Twelve minutes now before the top of the hour. Eat better, eat well, and there are new directions on maybe how to do it. Helena Bodemiller-Evich covers these issues for Politico as their senior food and agricultural reporter. As Americans, how do we shape up with the rest of the world in terms of eating healthy? And
we usually battle with Mexico for being number one most overweight.
Oh,
it's always
at least we're number one.
It kind of depends
in something.
Something.
No, really?
Yes.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That is.
It's a serious problem. I mean, you have military leaders now talking increasingly about the obesity epidemic because it's threatening our ability to recruit young people. A lot of them are just physically not fit for service. There are a lot of consequences to this.
That's one of the things I've always said about like the opposition to this from a lot of usually conservative lawmakers because I think it's an overreach. But like this is an issue of military readiness. No joke.
It's also the fiscal future of our country because we're now increasingly paying for healthcare, and diabetes, diet-related diseases are massively expensive. And if you could you could prevent some of these diet-related diseases, you could really decrease healthcare costs.
All right, I'm going to admit up front that my next question is politically incorrect, and I probably get slammed for it. But to what extent is that geographical? I mean, I must tell you, as I travel around the country, there's some places I see a lot of overweight people, and some places I don't. I don't want to mention the places I do, like Ocean City, Maryland.
Well, there's definitely some stronger trends in rural areas. There's also in the South. Some southern states have just statistically higher.
I didn't want to go there because Peter's from South Carolina, but yeah.
South Carolina is usually not on the top. It's usually
thank God for Mississippi.
Alabama and Mississippi are usually pretty high.
No, but there is a geographic component to this, isn't it?
Some of it's cultural, the types of foods that folks have been eating, and a lot of it is also lifestyle. So some cities, people who live in cities tend to have less rates of obesity, only because a lot of that's just because of incidental walking.
But
so
moving,
that you're just moving more. It varies a lot. Colorado has always had a pretty low. They're usually ranked like last in overweight. So.
Well, and it seems there's enough information out there, right? I mean, every time you turn around, somebody's talking about exercise and diet in terms of at least eating less, not such big portions, and eating healthier. And is it having an impact? I mean, see any signs of it? Or?
The overall obesity epidemic has leveled off, which is, I think most people agree, a good thing. It's no longer rapidly increasing. If you look from starting about the 70s, late 80s or early 80s, it just skyrockets.
So what's the worst thing for you?
The worst thing? Well, right now there's a lot of focus on sugar consumption. There's a big debate happening in food world over whether or not the government over-vilified fat and sort of sent everyone towards more carbs and more sugar consumption. Because when food manufacturers take out fat from their product, they're usually adding something else to make it palatable. And a lot of times that's sugar. So there's been a big debate about whether or not that push has maybe sent us on the wrong path. Part of the problem is that the science, for a long time, we thought was very clear about fat and saturated fat, and now that's starting to be questioned.
But deep-fried foods, right? Just stay away from...
Deep-fried, I love deep-fried foods, but yes, any cardiologist or a dietitian would tell you those are foods you should stay away from.
Including French fries?
Well, but French fries are so delicious, but yes, including French fries.
You're bumming me out.
Yeah,
I know.
I just trying to think. Who doesn't love a good fresh donut? I mean, that's pinnacle, just delicious food.
I could do without donuts, but not French fries.
It's a sometimes food. Yeah. It's not an everyday for breakfast.
Treats as treats is what some people have said, right?
Yeah, I think there is an increasing awareness, but a lot of people struggle with weight even when they do try to eat healthy. And I think part of the problem is we have a lot of science that we don't understand about metabolism. Why does one person have a good metabolism and can eat anything they want?
Yeah, right.
And it's crazy to me that we can do like brain surgery and organ transplants, but we don't know the answers to a lot of questions about metabolism and health. It just really hasn't been prioritized.
But at least it's getting more attention today, which is good.
It is getting more attention.
And partly thanks to your good work at Politico. Thanks so much, Selena. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
you can follow her work at Politico.com. We'll be back with a quick parting shot.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation, get married, give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
What the Pack. Visit Ready.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, for a long time I've been saying that Bernie Sanders wanted to do a lot more than just win the nomination. He wanted to shape the party platform and shake up the Democratic Party itself. And for a long time I've been saying that in the end, Bernie and Hillary would work together for change. Well, guess what? It's happening. Just like I said yesterday. The DNC announced members of the committee that will draft the party's platform for the Philadelphia convention. And on that committee are such Bernie backers as Congressman Keith Ellison, Princeton professor Cornel West. It also includes liberals, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, anti-Keystone champion Bill McKibben, and human rights activist Jim Zogby. Barbara Lee and Keith Ellison, by the way, were both guests at the first meeting of the Bernie Sanders campaign in my living room on Capitol Hill. So now, thanks to Bernie, change is in the wind, my friends. Can we all sing Kumbaya? That's my parting shot for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Come on back. We'll be looking for you.
This is the Bill Press Show.